the 12 princes of the tribes. God, in his love for Israel, had frequent censuses taken, so that he might accurately estimate his possession. In scarcely half a year they were twice counted, once shortly before the erection of the tabernacle, and the second time a month after its dedication. On the first day of the month of Liar, Moses received instructions to take a census of all men over 20 who were physically fit to go to war. He was ordered to take Aaron as his assistant, so that in case he should overlook some of the men, Aaron might remind him of them, for 2 are better than 1. They were also to take as their assistants Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's sons, and a man from each of the several tribes. These 12 men were appointed not only to conduct the census, but also to look after the spiritual welfare of their respective tribes, the sins of which would be upon their heads unless with all their powers they strove to prevent them from sinning. Moses and Aaron nevertheless requested the princes of the tribes, in spite of their high rank, not to tyrannize the people, whereas, on the other hand, they admonished the people to pay all due respect to their superiors. The names of these 12 princes indicate the history of their tribes. The prince of the tribe of Reuben was called Elizur. My God is a rock, referring to the ancestor of his tribe, Reuben, Jacob's son, who sinned, but, owing to his penance, was forgiven by God, who bore his sin as a rock bears the house built upon it. The name of Elizur's father was Sheduar, cast into the fire, because Reuben was converted to repentance and atonement through Judah, who confessed his sin when his daughter-in-law Tamar was about to be cast into the fire. The prince of the tribe of Simon was named Shelumiel. My God is peace, to indicate that in spite of the sin of Zimri, the head of this tribe, through whom 24,000 men among Israel died, God nevertheless made peace with this tribe. The prince of the tribe of Judah bore the name Nahshon, wave of the sea, the son of Amminadab, prince of my people, because the prince received his dignity as a reward for having plunged into the waves of the Red Sea to glorify God's name. The tribe of Issachar had for its prince Nathanael. God gave, for this tribe devoted its life to the Torah given by God to Moses. Accordingly, Nathanael was called the son of Zuar, burden, for Issachar assumed the burden of passing judgment on the lawsuits of the other tribes. Corresponding to the occupation of the tribe of Zebulun, its prince was called Eliab, the ship, the son of Helon, the sand, for this tribe spent its life on ships, seeking treasures hidden in the sand. Elishama, son of Ammihud, the name of the prince of the tribe of Ephraim, points to the history of Joseph, their forefather. God said, Elishama, he obeyed me, when he told him to be chaste and not covet his master's wife. And Ammihud, me he honored and none other. The other tribe of Joseph, Manasseh, also named their prince in reference to their forefather, calling him Gamaliel, son of Pedazur, which signifies God rewarded Joseph for his piety by releasing him from bondage and making him ruler over Egypt. The prince of the tribe of Benjamin was named Abidan, my father decreed, son of Gideoni, mighty hosts, referring to the following incident. When Rachel perceived that she would die at the birth of her son, she called him son of faintness, supposing that a similar fate would overtake him and that he was doomed through weakness to die young. But Jacob, the child's father, decreed otherwise, and called Benjamin son of might and of many years. The prince of the tribe of Dan bore the name Ahiezer, brother of Help, son of Ammishaddai, my people's judge, because he was allied with the helpful tribe of Judah at the erection of the tabernacle, and, like this ruling tribe, brought forth a mighty judge in the person of Samson. The tribe of Asher was distinguished by the beauty of its women, which was so excellent that even the old among them were fairer and stronger than the young girls of the other tribes. For this reason, kings chose the daughters of this tribe to be their wives, and these, through their intercession before the kings, saved the lives of many who had been doomed to death. Hence the name of the prince of the tribe of Asher, Pagiel, the interceder, son of Ochran, the afflicted. For the women of the tribe of Asher, through their intercession, obtained grace for the afflicted. The prince of the tribe of Gad bore the name Eliasaph, God multiplied, son of Deuel, God is a witness, to reward them for passing over the Jordan and not returning to the property on this side of the river until the promised land was won. Their wealth was multiplied by God, for when, upon returning, they found their enemy at home, God aided them and they gained all their enemy's possessions. God was furthermore a witness that this tribe had no wicked motive when they erected an altar on their land. The prince of the tribe of Naphtali was called Ahira, desirable meadow, son of Enan, clouds, for the land of this tribe was distinguished by its extraordinary excellence. Its products were exactly what their owners desired, and all this owing to the plenteous water from the clouds, pouring rain over their land. At the census of the people, the tribes were set down in the order in which they put up their camp and moved in the marches. The tribes of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun formed the first group, the royal tribe of Judah being associated with the tribe of learned men, Issachar, and with Zebulun, which, through its generosity, enabled Issachar to devote itself to the study of the Torah. The second group consisted of Reuben, Simon, and Gad. The sinful tribe of Simon was supported on the right by the penance of Reuben, and on the left by the strength of Gad. The tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin formed a group by themselves, for these, before all other tribes, were destined to appear gloriously against Amalek. The Ephraimite, Joshua, was the first who was victorious against Amalek. The Benjaminite Saul followed his example in his war against Agag, king of Amalek. And under the leadership of men out of the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Simon, at the time of King Jehoshaphat, succeeded in destroying the rest of the Amalekites. They formed the last group, and for the following reason were united in this way. The tribe of Dan had already at the time of the exodus from Egypt been possessed of the sinful thought of fashioning an idol. To counteract this dark thought, Asher was made its comrade, from whose soil came the oil for lighting, and that Dan might participate in the blessing, Naphtali, full with the blessing of the Lord, became its second companion. At this third census, the number of men who were able to go to war proved to be exactly the same as the second census, taken in the same year. Not one among Israel had died during this period, from the beginning of the erection of the tabernacle to its dedication, when the third census took place. But no conclusive evidence concerning the sum total of the separate tribes can be drawn from this number of men able to go to war, because the ration of the two sexes varied among the different tribes, as, for example, the females in the tribe of Naphtali greatly outnumbered the males. The census of the Levites. Moses, at the census, did not take into consideration the tribe of Levi, because God had not commanded him to select a prince for this tribe, as for all the others. Hence he drew the conclusion that they were not to be counted. Naturally, he was not sure of his decision in this matter, and wavered whether or not to include the Levites in the number, when God said to him, "Do not muster the tribe of Levi, nor number them among the children of Israel." At these words Moses was frightened, for he feared that his tribe was considered unworthy of being counted with the rest, and was therefore excluded by God. But God quieted him, saying, "Do not number the Levites among the children of Israel, number them separately." There were several reasons for this. God foresaw that, owing to the sin of the spies who were sent to search the land, all men who were able to go to war would perish in the wilderness, all that were numbered from 20 years old and upward. Had the Levites been included in the sum total of Israel, the angel of death would have held sway over them also. Therefore God excluded them from the census of the tribes, that they might in the future be exempt from the punishment visited on the others, and might enter the Promised Land. The Levites were furthermore the bodyguard of God, to whose care the sanctuary was entrusted, another reason for counting them separately. God in this instance conducted himself like the king who ordered one of his officers to number his legions, but added, "Number all the legions except the legion that is around me." The extent of God's love for Levi is evident through the command given to Moses to number in the tribe of Levi all males from a month old and upward, whereas in the other tribes none were numbered except men able to go to war, from 20 years of age and upward. On other occasions, God even counted the embryos among the Levites. This occurred on Jacob's entrance into Egypt, when the number 70 for his family was attained only by including Jochebed, who was still in the womb, and similarly at a future time upon the return of the exiles from Babylon. For at that time only 23 of the priestly sections returned. Hence, to complete their number, they had to include Bigvai, who belonged to the missing section, even though he was still in the womb. When Moses was ordered to number among the Levites all the children from a month old and upward, he said to God, "You bid me to count them from a month old and upward. Shall I now wander about their courts and houses and count each child, seeing that you gave me such a command?" But God replied, "Do what you can do, and I will do what I can do." It now came to pass that whenever Moses went to a Levite tent, he found the Shekinah waiting for him, and telling him exactly the number of children without his having to count them. In the choice of this tribe, God showed his preference for the seventh, for Levi was the seventh pious man, starting from Adam, to wit, Adam, Noah, Enoch, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Levi. In this instance, as in so many others, God indicated his love for the seventh. He sits enthroned in the seventh heaven. Of the 7 worlds, the seventh alone is inhabited by human beings. Of the early generations, the seventh was the most excellent, for it produced Enoch. Moses, seventh among the patriarchs, was judged worthy of receiving the Torah, and David, seventh son of Jesse, was chosen as king. In periods of time, also, the seventh was the favorite. The seventh day is the Sabbath. The seventh month, Tishri, is the month of the holy days. The seventh year is the sabbatical year of rest, and every seventh sabbatical year of rest is the year of Jubilee. Another reason for numbering even the youngest boys among the Levites was that the tribe of Levi as a whole had been responsible for atoning for the sin of the firstborn among the children of Israel. For it was these who, until the time of the worship of the golden calf, performed the services of the priesthood. This privilege was taken from them owing to this, their sin. This prerogative was then conferred on the tribe of Levi, who, moreover, dedicating themselves man for man to the service of the Lord, served as an atonement for the firstborn of Israel, that they might not be destroyed as they deserved. The exchange of Levites in place of the firstborn did, however, present a difficulty, for God had communicated the number of Levites to Moses in the following way. Their number amounts to as many as the number of my legion. For when God came down to Sinai, 72,000 angels surrounded him, and the Levites numbered just as many men. Outside of these, there were 300 firstborn among the Levites. That could not be well offered in exchange for the firstborn of the other tribes, because their standing was the same as theirs. As the number of firstborn among the tribes exceeded the number of Levites by 273, this surplus remained without actual atonement. Hence, God ordered Moses to take from them 5 shekels apiece as redemption money, and give it to the priests. The sum was fixed upon by God, who said, "You sold the firstborn of Rachel for 5 shekels, and for this reason shall you give as redemption money for every firstborn among you 5 shekels." To avoid quarrels among the firstborn, as otherwise each would try to lay the payment for redemption money upon his neighbor, Moses wrote upon 22,000 slips of paper the word Levi, and on 273 the words 5 shekels, all of which were thrown into an urn and mixed. Then every firstborn had to draw one of the slips. If he drew a slip with Levi, he was not obliged to remit any payment, but if he drew 5 shekels, he had to pay that sum to the priests. The 4 divisions of the Levites. Apart from the census of all male Levites, Moses now took another census of the men from age 30 to 50, for only at this age were the Levites permitted to perform service in the tabernacle throughout the march through the desert, a law that indeed ceased to hold good when Israel settled in the Promised Land. These officiating Levites, as well as the priests, were divided by Moses into 8 sections, a number that was not doubled until the prophet Samuel increased it to 16, to which David added 8, so that there were later 24 divisions among the Levites and priests. The most distinguished among the Levites were the sons of Kohath, in whose charge during the march through the desert was the Holy of Holies, and particularly the Holy Ark. This latter was a dangerous trust, for out of the staves attached to it would issue sparks that consumed Israel's enemies. But now and then this fire wrought havoc among the bearers of the ark. It therefore became a customary thing, when the camp was about to be moved, for Kohath's sons to hurry into the sanctuary and seek to pack up the different portions of it, each one planning cautiously to shift the carrying of the ark upon the other. But this kindled God's anger against them, and he slew many of the Kohathites because they ministered to the ark with an unwilling heart. To avert the danger that threatened them, God ordered Aaron and his sons to enter first into the sanctuary, and to appoint to the Kohathites every one his service and his burden, so that each would know exactly what to do, that they might not go in when the holy things are covered, lest they die. This was done because previous to this command, the sons of Kohath had been accustomed to feast their eyes on the sight of the ark, which sometimes brought them instantaneous death. But, according to this order, Aaron and his sons first took apart the different portions of the sanctuary, covered the ark, and not until then called the sons of Kohath to bear the burden. During the march, the Levites might wear no shoes, but had to walk barefoot because they carried and ministered to the holy objects. The Kohathites had, furthermore, to walk backwards, for they might not turn their backs to the holy ark. They were also, owing to their offices as bearers of the ark, distinguished by being the first of the Levites to be numbered in the census, although in other respects the sons of Gershon led, for Gershon was the firstborn of Levi. When giving the commission to count the sons of Kohath, God explicitly mentioned that Moses should undertake the census with Aaron, but he did not do so when he ordered the number of the sons of Gershon. Moses now thought that God had done this intentionally, because the former were directly under Aaron's supervision, while the Gershonites were not. Nevertheless, out of respect to his brother, he told his brother, as well as out of courtesy, the princes of the tribes, to be present at the numbering of the Levites. But he did not tell Aaron that he did so in the name of God. In this Moses erred, for God wished Aaron to be present at the numbering of the Levites. For this reason, when he ordered the census of the 3rd division, Merari's sons, to be taken, he expressly mentioned Aaron's name. At the appointment of service among the individual Levites, Aaron paid attention only to the sons of Kohath, each of whom had his special task allotted to him, whereas Moses appointed their tasks to the sons of Gershon and Merari. The highest chief of the Levites, however, was Eleazar, who was to have oversight of them that keep charge of the sanctuary. But despite this high position, Eleazar was modest enough to participate in the service in person. During their marches from place to place, he himself would carry all the needful things for the daily offering. In his right hand he carried the oil for the candlestick, in his left hand the incense. On his person were the things that were made in the pans, and attached to his girdle the vial with the oil for ointment. Ithamar, Eleazar's brother, also had a duty in the sanctuary, for it was he to whom the guidance of Gershon's and Merari's sons were assigned. For these must perform none but the service God had specially assigned to them, as no Gershonite might perform the duty of a Merarite, and vice versa, and each individual, too, had his special duty, that no quarrel might arise among them. The four standards. When God appeared upon Sinai, he was surrounded by 22,000 angels, all in full array and divided into groups, each of which had its own standard. Looking upon these angel hosts, Israel also wanted to be divided into groups with standards, and God fulfilled their wish. After Moses completed the census of the people, God said to him, "Fulfill their wish and provide them with standards as they desire. Every man of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, with the ensign of their father's house. Far off from the tabernacle of the congregation shall they do this." This commission greatly agitated Moses, who thought, "Now there will be much strife among the tribes. If I bid the tribe of Judah to camp in the east, it will surely state its preference for the south, and every tribe will likewise choose any direction but the one assigned to it." But God said to Moses, "Do not concern yourself with the position of the standards of the tribes, for they have no need of your direction. Their father Jacob, before his death, ordered them to group themselves about the tabernacle just as his sons were to be grouped about the casket at his funeral procession." When Moses told the people to divide themselves in groups around the tabernacle, they did it in the manner Jacob had bidden them. The Lord, by wisdom, has founded the earth. By understanding, he established the heavens. The division of the tribes of Israel, according to four standards, as well as their subdivision at each standard, is not arbitrary and accidental. It corresponds to the same plan and direction God made for use in heaven. The celestial throne is surrounded by four angels. To the right, Michael; in front, Gabriel; to the left, Uriel; and to the rear, Raphael. To these four angels corresponded the four tribes of Reuben, Judah, Dan, and Ephraim, the standard bearers. Michael earned his name, who is like God, by exclaiming during the passage of Israel through the Red Sea, "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods?" And he made a similar statement when Moses completed the Torah, saying, "There is none like the God of Israel." In this same way, Reuben bore upon his standard the words, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." Hence, Reuben's position with his standard to the right of the sanctuary corresponded exactly to Michael's post at the right of the celestial throne. Gabriel, God is mighty, stands in front of the throne, as Judah, mightiest among his brethren, was the standard bearer in front of the camp. Dan, the tribe from which emanated dark sin, stood at the left side of the camp with his standard, corresponding to the angel Uriel, God is my light, for God illuminated the darkness of sin by the revelation of the Torah, the study of which this angel instructed Moses, and devotion to which is penance for sin. The tribe of Ephraim was the standard bearer to the rear of the camp, occupying the same position as Raphael, God heals, holds the celestial throne. For this tribe, from which sprang Jeroboam, was in need of God's healing for the wound that this wicked king dealt Israel. God had other reasons for the divisions of the tribes that he decreed. For he said to Moses, "In the east from which comes the light shall be the tribe of Judah, from whom arises the light of sovereignty, and with them the tribe of Issachar, with whom dwells the light of the Torah, and Zebulun shining through the wealth. From the south come the dews of blessing and the rains of plenty. Hence shall Reuben camp on this side, for this tribe owes its existence to the penitent deeds of its forefather, the penance that causes God to send his blessing on the world. Beside Reuben shall stand the warlike tribe of Gad, and between these two Simon, in order that this tribe made weak by its sins might be protected on either side by the piety of Reuben and the heroism of Gad. In the west are the storehouses of snow, the storehouses of hail, of cold, and of heat. And as powerless as these mortals are against these forces of nature, so ineffectual shall be the enemies of the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, for which reason their post was to the west of the camp. From the north comes the darkness of sin, for this tribe, Dan, alone will declare itself willing to accept the idols of Jeroboam. hence its place to the north of the camp. To illuminate its darkness, put beside it the shining Asher and Naphtali, filled with God's plenty. The four standards were distinguished from one another by their different colors, and by the inscriptions and figures worked upon them. The color of Judah's standard corresponded to the color of the three stones in the breastplate of the high priest, on which were engraved the name of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and was composed of red, green, and fiery red. Judah's name, as well as Issachar's and Zebulun's, was inscribed on the banner, and besides the names was the inscription, "Rise up, Lord, and let your enemies be scattered, and let them that hate you flee before you." The standard of Reuben, about which gathered also the tribes of Simon and Gad, was the color of the emerald, the sapphire, and the sebhalom. For on these three stones were the names of these tribes engraved upon the breastplate of the high priest. Besides the name of Reuben, Simon, and Gad, the following device was wrought on the second standard. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord, our God, is one Lord." The third standard, around which rallied the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, bore the color of the diamond, the turquoise, and the amethyst. For on these three stones were engraved the names of these three tribes. On this standard was the motto, "And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day, and when they went out of the camp." As on the breastplate of the high priest the stones crystallite, beryl, and panther stone bore the names of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, so too did the fourth standard, round which these three tribes gathered, bear a color resembling these three stones. This standard contained the names of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, and the saying, "Return, O Lord, to the many thousands of Israel." The standards had also other distinguishing characteristics. Judah's standard bore in its upper part the figure of a lion, for its forefather had been characterized by Jacob as a lion's whelp, and also sword-like hooks of gold. On these hooks God permitted a strip of the seventh cloud of glory to rest, in which were visible the initials of the names of the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the letters being radiations from the Shekinah. Reuben's standard had in its upper part the figure of a man, corresponding to the mandrakes that Reuben, forefather of this tribe, found, for this plant had the form of a mandrake. The hooks on this standard were like those on the standard of Judah, but the second letters of the names of the three patriarchs, Bet, Zade, and Ain, were seen above them in the cloud. In the standard of Ephraim was fashioned the form of a fish, for Jacob had blessed the forefather of this tribe by telling him to multiply like a fish. In all other respects it was like the two other standards, except that above the sword-like hooks of gold were seen the third letters of the names of the patriarchs, Resh, Het, and Kaf. Dan's standard contained the form of a serpent, for Dan shall be like a serpent by the way, was Jacob's blessing for this tribe. And the gleaming letters above the hooks were Mem for Abraham, Kaf for Isaac, and Bet for Jacob. The letter H of Abraham's name was not indeed visible over the standards, but was reserved by God for a still greater honor. For, over the holy ark, God let a pillar of cloud rest, and in this were visible the letters Yod and H, spelling the name Yah, by means of which God created the world. This pillar of cloud shed sunlight by day and moonlight by night, so that Israel, who was surrounded by clouds, might distinguish between night and day. These two sacred letters, Yod and H, would on weekdays fly above over the four standards, hovering now upon this and now upon that. But as soon as Friday was over and the Sabbath began, these letters stood immovable on the spot where they chanced to be at the moment, and remained in this rigid position from the first moment of the Sabbath to the last. Whenever God wanted Israel to break up camp and move on, he would send from its place over the ark the cloud in which beamed the two sacred letters, Yod and H, in the direction in which Israel was to march, and the four strips of cloud over the standards would follow. As soon as the priests saw the clouds in motion, they would blow the trumpets as a signal for starting, and the winds from all sides breathed myrrh and frankincense. Although it was the clouds that gave the signal for taking down and setting up tents, still they always awaited the word of Moses. Before starting, the pillar of cloud would contract and stand still before Moses, waiting for him to say, "Rise up, Lord, and let your enemies be scattered, and let them that hate you flee before you." Then the pillar of cloud would be set in motion. It was the same when they set up camp. The pillar of cloud would contract and stand still before Moses, waiting for him to say, "Return, O Lord, to the many thousands of Israel." Then it would expand, first over the tribes that belonged to the standard of Judah, and then over the sanctuary, within and without. Next, the camp. End part 59 of 95, TheLegendsOfTheJews.com.